Okay, so in the last video we discussed about class determination or how to make a class an active class or a determining class uh, that will affect the value of the whole predicate. For that purpose, you have to set the value of minor classes, and depending upon setting those values, a specific class can become an active class in a predicate, and it is also called the determining class. And such kind of classes are useful to do some sort of you can say meaningful testing. So in this video we are going to discuss that further, and some criteria that are based on such classes, which are called active classes or the major classes or the determining classes. So let's go through one of them. So what do we mean by active class coverage? Here is the first definition, that active class coverage can be abbreviated as ACC, and for each P, remember that small p is one predicate in this capital P, which is a set of predicates, and we denote each major class by C subscript I in CP C subscript P. So this capital C subscripted by P is a set of classes in this P, and Ci is one class in the set of classes. So if we set Ci to be the major class, then the remaining classes in CP will be called the minor classes. And this condition that J is not equal to I means that the major class and the minor class cannot be the same. And since Ci is the major class, it must be determining the value of the predicate P. And there are two more conditions for active class coverage. First one is that Ci evaluates to true, and the second one is Ci evaluates to false. So let's take an example on this simple predicate, which is A or B. And as you might remember, which I explained in the last video about short circuit evaluation, in that case we just need to have a look at the first operand of this OR. In this case, if we want to make A as a determining class or the active class, then we just need to set the value of B to be false. Now just you can imagine that if B is false, then whatever it is the value of A will be the value of the whole predicate. If I set A to true, then the predicate will be true, and if I set the value of A to be false, then the whole predicate will be false. It means when we set B equal to false, then A is determining the value of the whole predicate. And in the same way, if I set the value of A to be false, then the whole predicate is dependent on the value of class B. If B is true, then the whole predicate will be true, and if B is false, then the whole predicate will be false. So these actually, if you look carefully, here A is the major class and its value is changing from true to false, and it is also determining the predicate P. And in the same way, as we said in the definition, for each major class Ci in CP. So we have to make all the classes in the set of classes to be major classes one by one. So we made in this first two rows, we made A to be active or the major class, and in the last two rows we are making B to be the major class and A to be the minor class. So there were only two classes in this predicate. We made them active one by one, and we also set their values to be true and false. It means we have fulfilled all the conditions of the active class coverage, which were given in this definition in the box on the top. But if you look at row number 2 and row number 4, they have exactly the same values. So we can strike out one of them, because when we are doing testing, our goal is to do testing with the minimal number of tests. So these possible values, a equal to true, b equal to false, a equal to false, b equal to false, and a equal to false and b equal to true, these are kind of test cases which will be used to test an application by providing these values. So if we repeat row number 4, which is exactly the same as row number 2, that will be just overwork. And for if the small predicate we have some duplication, just imagine what sort of duplication can be there when we have more classes or more predicates to test. Therefore, for optimal testing or to do testing with minimal number of test cases, we have to avoid duplication. So in the first two, A is a major class, in the last two, B is a major class, and we need to avoid duplicate tests. So this active class coverage has been a form of MCDC, which is a modified condition decision coverage, and it is required by FAA, which is Federal Aviation Authority, for safety critical software in the aviation industry. But there is still ambiguity among testers that do the minor clauses have to have the same values. Means in this previous case we just fixed the value of the minor clause to be false, but the testers always thought about or felt confused about whether the minor clauses do have to the same values or their values can be different when the major clause is changing value from true to false. So now just look at this example. Again we have this predicate and we want to see how we can resolve the ambiguity. So for example, here if we want to make A as a major class, and we can see that there is an OR between this operand of the OR and this operand on the right hand side of the OR. If A is the major class, it must change value from true to false as shown here. But on the right hand side, we can make this right hand operand of OR false by either setting B as false and C as true, means false and true will be false, and in that case A will be determining the whole predicate. And we can also set false and false, which means again the right hand operand is false, which is the requirement to make A as the active class or the major class. But you can see here we have two classes, means if A is the active class, then class B and class C are the minor classes. And in the first row, B equal to false and C equal to true is the set of values which make A as active. And again in the second row, the combination of values false and false still make A active, but in this scenario we have changed the value of C from true to false. So the question is whether this is allowed or not allowed. So depending upon this confusion which confused the testing community for years, there was potential answers to this confusion, how this can be resolved. And this led to three different or separate criteria which can be used to test different applications which have these kind of predicates and clauses. First criteria is minor clauses do not need to be the same. Means in the first instance, when the major clause is true, whatever values here, the minor clauses can have different values when major clauses value changes from true to false. And the second is the minor clauses do need to be the same. In that case, this will not be allowed. It means when the major clause value changes from true to false, we must keep the same values which were in the case of true case of the major clause. The minor clause value will remain the same as they were in the true case, and they must be the same when the major clause value changes from true to false. And the third possibility is that minor clauses force the predicate to become both true and false. So it means in the third case we will change the value of minor clause from uh, in such a way that on the basis of this change, the whole predicate's value is changed from true to false or false to true. So these are the three criteria which are based on the active clauses, and how the changing or not changing the values of minor clauses will affect the criteria. So these three criteria we will be discussing in the next video. So till then, thank you, and do consider